Welcome back to Bracave TV, the Uchao Dawn Break Show. My name is Eric Kimondo, and in studio with me this morning is Mr. Simon Kamau from OptiPro Limited. And today we are going to be talking about the future of women leadership in Kenya. Such an interesting conversation right here. That is made for you. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Eric.
How are you doing this morning?
Very well, I thank God.
How was your journey?
Blessed.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And today we have quite a core topic, and this is the future of women leadership in Kenya. And I know you're going to be touching on critical issues, even of the two-third gender rule, why it has never been accomplished. It's there in the constitution, why we don't see it yet, amongst other very many issues that even women go through in enterprises. And even I know from young girls that are listening to you, to the women in the leadership positions, they want to hear from this conversation. So karibu sana.
Thank you.
And take us through.
Thank you, Eric. To all our viewers who are watching and listening, we are really grateful and glad to be here. And I think what is really quite interesting is that we are now today speaking to our own source, looking at it from creation. We are born of women, and you will appreciate if you look at it from creation, from an economic value, and even now the principles of life. Women are actually known to be procreators of peace, very strong in development, you know, and these are unifying factor in the world, you know. So to all women outside there, we are really grateful for you, and we also take note that in your absence, we really even can't imagine how the world or the planet will look like, you know.
To be a world without flowers.
Wow. You know, now, Eric, that conversation will be terrible.
Terrible.
You figure out your mom, your wife, your daughter, your sister, your colleague. So women are procreators. And they have really contributed to a lot of value. Looking at Kenya, for example, during the pre-colonial era, you know really what the role of women was. When men were out there in the bush and in the forest, of course, scheming and planning how to counter the British colony, the women actually were quite strong in terms of now providing for food, providing for intelligence. The generation did not continue. As much as men were in the bush fighting, the procreation still went on. And they took care of great men and women we see out here today during that difficult moment. So when you look at it from that perspective, so we will appreciate the role of a woman has really been quite instrumental, not only to our own liberation, but even at the family unit, looking at they come in and really take care of the family, do a lot of guidance, a lot of mentorship, and a lot of support when you look at it from a family unit. And of course, economically, one thing which we really need to appreciate, as it stands now, the women population is about 54%. In 2021, it was getting to 51. But in 2 years' time, we are seeing it at 54%. What is quite interesting, again, if you look at their contribution to the GDP, women hold close to 50% space within the MSMEs space. That 50% brings in about 20% contribution to our gross domestic products. Okay? And now when you look at it from an employment creation perspective, they are holding about 85% of employment opportunities
Oh my.
in the informal space. If today you woke up and go to Gikomba, go to Marikiti, who go to Korogosho, go to any other market, Kirigiti here, who are the people we find there?
Women.
Women. By 3 a.m., 4 a.m.,
Oh my.
they are already in there. So sometimes I strongly feel we need to stop the stereotype that when you look at the space of women on the table, we cannot figure out how we quantify what is it that these women have done to us all together. So if you look at it now from a supply chain point of view, it is the same women who are out there in all these markets that we have mapped, and they come in and now through the logistics within is that they collect goods from Kirigiti, and before you realize, the whole of Machakos is actually supplied with foodstuffs for them to really feed their families, etc., etc. So you imagine now one day, Eric, all women speak in one voice and go decides we are on a go slow, be it in corporates, be it in the family setups, be it in the MSMEs and the informal sectors, be it in leadership and management. What happens to this country? So we need to be a bit more practical, and this one goes also, and I will start with myself as a man. And of course, I have Eric, who is my colleague here, and that reflects on every other male outside there. We need to sit down and take stocks to quantify how much contributions the women have made to this country up to this point.
Wow.
But surprisingly, as you had mentioned now during this conversation, if you look at it now from inclusivity and diversity.
Yeah. That's the conversation. Hey.
Up to this point, because when you look at their spaces, they'll come in politics, in leadership, in corporates, in management and advocacy. They're very strong in these areas. If you look at cases of Ombudsman, Kenya National Human Rights, you know, these are we have the feeder, you know, although most of my male category, when they hear feeder, they will always imagine terror and danger. But if you figure out how they came out even to form banks such as Kenya Women, it was purely to come in and claim their space, because the male dominancy through now the patriarch attitude will not really allow them to come in and have a space on the table to complement their male counterparts in what is happening. So of essence will be, if you look at it now, the two that as much as Kenya is really pushing and making a lot of efforts, looking at it now from structural changes in terms of policy and governance, if you are to look at it from that equation, then you'll expect about 65% male, 35% female. The sad story is that even for those farms that are listed publicly, they have not really come in to at least achieve this particular number. The number is only achievable in very few corporates, and these corporates have only come in to demonstrate how women can deliver value. The likes of Coca-Cola, you can see the likes of Kengen, etc., etc. But then, is that enough when you look at the build-up or the number of corporates within this country, and also Kenya being placed in the global map as a role model of the modern day way of living from diversity and inclusion? So the government are up to this point, and one of the conversations which is taking place in the ongoing dialogue is on how the National Assembly will come in and pass that bill of a mandatory 2/3 gender rule. And as much as it's a conversation which is ongoing, I remember during the previous regime, it was shut down. not once, not twice, not thrice.
Yeah.
So what is it? What does that mean? What that means, so long as we are not going to work on our policies and knowing how much the national policies mirror to the corporate world, to the advocacy and management, then we still have some conversations to hold as to how we need really to address this particular gap. But I feel strongly that the women have not really been silenced. The fact that we do not have that gender rule, which is provided for in our constitutions. If you compare the 2017 and 2023 in terms of now the politics, you could see the number of women who were voted into office. So our male counterparts are also appreciating that we no longer need to have conflicts with our female counterparts. Instead, we should be complementing each other, you know. And you can see a lot of developments even when it comes now to county governance in terms of management, how issues are coming up, you know, pushing for a lot of force and a lot of inertia to women and even attempting now to show them the door in terms of impeachment. But you can see the Senate again comes back and looks at it from a perspective of practicality and objectivity, you know. So if you look at some of this conversation, the sad story, Eric, is it is more fueled and propelled by the fact that the person who is occupying that seat is a female. Yet when you go back now to our own cultures, traditions and norms, we really don't believe that a woman can occupy a leadership position, more so within certain communities. So that stereotype is really dangerous and quite terrible, because cumulatively you hit negatively to the day-to-day development of these counties. Time is really going, and we have seen some of these counties 1 year down the line, nothing has taken shape. Yet when you look at now the recent performance of the county governments and the National Assembly, surprisingly you could see is a lady who was leading, Gladys Wanga. She topped the list. So what does that tell you? And some of our male counterparts, they are nowhere even closer to being mentioned. They can only feature in being the worst performers, you know. And these are people who have not actually been into too much exposure when it comes to leadership. But as I had rightly said, they are procreators of in terms of development. They come in very fast and unify the environment. Doesn't matter whether it's political, economic, technological, societal, you know, they really come in and pick up very fast. And as we wind up now on that particular tipping point, what we need to appreciate is that if you really want to draw value that is safe, clean and secure, bring women on board. When it comes to decision making, they are really rational and very objective, and they are not really risk averse. They really don't like, you know, they don't tap into so much risk. Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric.
So what strategies or practices can empower women to succeed in the leadership roles?
So I'll pick 3. We can look at it from a tripartite perspective. One of the role models as to why we can positively come in and onboard women into their own space to complement us as a people all together is actually, number one, is the government. So we really need to respect and honor the constitution of the day by passing that bill of 2/3 gender rules, so that at least 1/3 is guaranteed for women. Okay, so that way you'll have more representation when it comes now to leadership within the national levels. So but unfortunately now, if that was not to be achieved, what we really don't know is that the more we suppress on women coming in to complement us on the table, we are losing about 4.5% of looking at it now from an economic perspective to the GDP contribution. Because if you go to agriculture, the women are very strong. If you go now to, if you come in and empower them through education, they really come in and discover themselves and get to be self-aware and take a lot of economic positions within the country. And we've discussed the Kirigitis, the Marigitis, etc., etc. You can actually see what this is all about. So so what is it that will happen if we have at least 65% of our women in active economic activities? So we have about 4.5% we lose every day. So if you are to now look at it from a standard point of view, annually about 3.5% is actually lost. Again, when we do not come in and tap from the 4.5, because you can bring in the 4.5, 1% can fall off, but at least 3.5 will actually come in and stabilize the wheel. Number two is actually now in corporates. When you look at our country, as much as we have about 17% contribution from the white collar job, how much space have we provided for the women, looking at it from the C-suite and management? Because if they are not involved in decision makings and they are not really empowered to come in and bring out their own talents and capabilities, then what that organization stands for is to lose from potentially very productive people in the form of discriminating them by way of the gender. So you end up really killing your own self by the fact that you don't want to recognize and appreciate that these are human beings just like yourself. They are equal to the maker. They have their abilities just like you have. And the moment you get now to involve them and do away with the gender discrimination, then outrightly 30% of your decision making, and this is tested, Eric, will be final decisions. And in organizations, if you can at least make 35% of your decisions error free, and you consistently onboard the 1% improvement every day, then you will imagine what that means towards the end of your financial year.
Wow.
The conversation becomes interesting. Within now the society, yes, as a country we've come too far. You know what we have gone through, the FGMs. You know, when it comes to girl child education, again, there was a lot of compromise as to whether we should educate a girl or a boy. You know, early marriages, you know. Again, when you look at the space of a woman in a society, they are always perceived as inferior. But then, if we have entrusted our women to take care of the whole family unit, you know, if indeed we can see globally people, the likes of the Merkel of Germany, the chancellor who was in Germany, and how much impact they brought to the world. If you look at the number 2 in the US, again, same conversation. If you look at our neighbor here, Tanzania, look at what actually has happened. So we really are not appreciating and are not accepting the fact that we do not necessarily need now to come in and limit or provide a lot of caveats, a lot of barriers to the space that our women should occupy. We are not blind to the fact that as much as we are Africans and we are Kenyans, we have also integrated. And the world has actually undergone through globalization, which has consistently evolved how we do things from our own culture, our own through technology. So really, we also need to come in and shape our own self with the modern day world. You know, as opposed to being tied by those cultural norms and syndromes of looking at them as inferior beings. So that stereotype at society level is really also very strong, in that if we did not see majority of our electorate from a society perspective, trusting and believing in our female colleagues, then you would imagine what that would have meant.
Yeah.
But I'm really appreciative of the fact that the society has equally come up to realize whether it is passed or not, through our own vote, we can come in and have the women take over these seats. So those three areas, looking at it from government, from corporates, and also the society, we need to really come in and reshape and carry out a lot of structural changes from an ideology perspective to really appreciate how we can consistently onboard women, not to compete, but to complement and to collaborate.
Yeah.
And the reality is, Eric, whether we do it or not, and we have noted the population is actually surpassing that of us, they will still occupy those seats. So why don't we create the peace and harmony and just promote them and also bring out the trust and confidence that we have, just like the way we have entrusted them to hold and drive the family unit.
Wow.
Yes.
Why is the inclusivity and the diversity important?
Discrimination can be really very destructive. And anything destructive is a killer of a dream. It is really interesting, Eric, to appreciate that you will outrightly observe and pick somebody who has high potential, okay? And the high potential can be from a different perspective. If you look at the corporate world of today, the best software engineers, as we speak, are actually women. Wow. And this has been demonstrated by even our leading technology giants and companies all together within now the telecommunication. So, and they are not only developing softwares, they have equally come in now to take very active roles within the engineering space. A space that has really been felt to be only male dominance. I know when you move around, you come across ladies who are on top of poles. They're either for doing a fiber connectivity. They're also checking on a power line, you know. So when you look at it now from that perspective, when you discriminate by the fact that they are of this gender, of female, then honestly, we are really not tapping into their own potential and capabilities to come in and add value and make the world altogether better. So the inclusivity is when you come and appreciate that we have male and female within any given ecosystem, be it a society, be it corporate, be it a government. Why don't we give equal opportunities to either male and female? And so long as, Eric, you convince us and you become the voice of reason objectively, then we follow your own way in terms of direction and purpose. And if you go back again, surprisingly, when it comes now to the employment, the job creations you see in this country within the informal sector, female have created about 85%. Those jobs are not actually there for their colleagues, for their female colleagues. Actually, they are male dominance in terms of who comes in to execute those particular jobs. You understand? So when you look at it from a perspective of inclusivity, we are simply saying we respect and appreciate all of us when it comes to leadership can have a space. So why don't we have everybody included in this particular discussion? Why don't we have you in this particular conversation and also get to pick what your contributions and inputs are? So we are really not discriminating women when it comes to certain aspects of our lives as human beings, but when it comes now to aspect of areas that requires decision making, we want to bring it up as if they will not think They can't think, that becomes quite really expensive. So they can, we have set aside some space where women have been noted to be very strong. They can cook very well, they can wash very well, they can take care of the family very well. But when it comes to corporate decision making, leading teams and taking up roles and responsibilities that would require you going an extra mile and to demonstrate leadership and proper supervision of the team, we want to assume at that level, at corporate level, they will not. But in a family setup where you have 2, 3, sometimes even 5 kids, they have brought them quite well. And these are the people who have actually, the kids have made a very strong impact in the society through the mother, but the mother cannot be trusted when it comes to decision making. So that is what we are saying. We need to keep off that stereotype. Yeah. Those doctrines are quite really dangerous.
Yeah, and old.
Yes, they are outdated now. They're really outdated. They are gone. They're not there. They are not there. And socially, I know as a country, we're still struggling when it comes to drugs and substance abuse. I can tell you, if you look at the statistics, if you have 10 cases of drug and substance abuse, you will pick 7 male against 3 female. So they are really quite self-aware, and they are cautious of the fact that they have a responsibility when it comes now to how they carry and conduct themselves. And if you just look at it from a general perspective, show me of one single mother who eats before the kids are served. But what happens to we as males? So long as it's served, sweep. So do you think if you give them opportunities to come in and occupy corporate positions, they will come and forget that they have a company goal and objective to pursue at the expense of their self-interest? It's the same application, Eric. Yes.
Men eat before children.
No, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, my good friend Eric. They will not even ask whether the kids have been served. No. You swallow, then once you are done, after you really rested and relaxed, you're now making follow-ups. How have the kids been, have they been served, Are they well? But the women will be restless when they don't know how their kids have been. Whether they're in the office, they'll keep making phone calls to our house assistants. How are the kids doing? Have they eaten? Are they okay? Can I talk to them? Male, how many phone calls do we raise to follow up on how the kids are doing? More so during this time that the schools are on break. Let's get to hear from them. They can give comments, and it will be interesting to see that.
And actually, we've seen it. Some women-led organizations are doing well.
Yes.
Extremely well, especially in the aspect of care.
Yes.
Everybody in the institution feels they are well taken care of.
True. If you look at it now from a personality point, when it comes to empathy and emotional intelligence, man, the environment becomes very good. And thanks, Eric, for bringing that up. They are top-notch. If you're in a women-led enterprise, as you have rightly put it, and you walk in a manner that does not reflect of you, I'll tell you, they will have a conversation with you. And they will actually follow up on you, on what exactly is it that is going on. Because they believe when you're not complete as a human being, when now it comes to your productivity,
it's going to be low.
It is going to be low. And they really don't want to stand poor performance, because they are determined and they are very dedicated when it comes to the job. So that's a very strong point, Eric. Emotional intelligence and empathy. When all time high. All time high. If you look at us as Africans, when we are believed and we've lost either friends or even neighbors or people we know, look at the people who come in and swing into action, they'll just not even want to care whether I know this person or I don't. But so long as there are people who are really going through a loss or a grief, these are people who will swing into action very fast. And even sometimes when you're walking within the streets of Nairobi or anywhere, when you happen to see something like that is not really very common, that has befallen or happened to a human being, women will move into action very fast. Men will start overthinking, you know. They'll just want to overthink. You know, even if you lost someone and how they lived before the society was not really upright, what women does, they appreciate that this is a son of a woman or a daughter of a woman. They deserve to be treated the way they should. The rest, you leave it to God. Men, we now want to pull out a scorecard. At Simon, the reason why he went, he was a notorious person. We give thanks to God he has gone. That's how men operate. Women, they grieve, they really encourage, they feel they are really much affected, and that is what brings the families which have been affected back to normalcy in terms of their thinking, you know, and how they fall back into life. So we need to look at human being as women from a perspective of value, and not from the stereotypes and indoctrination of our own old culture that is overtaken by time. We also need to appreciate, will not pull up a face reflection where we trust them with other responsibilities, but when it comes to leadership responsibilities, we want to present a case to mean that they're inferior. They are not, Eric.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Now that we've seen the important role of women in society and what they bring on the table,
yes,
we are going to take a short break. When we come back,
yes,
you take us through what is your advice for women, especially now in corporate leadership.
Yes.
What should they start doing? There are young girls that are listening to you. There are mothers that are listening to you. What is going to be your advice? So see you shortly after this break.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Prayer Cave TV, the Child on Break show, in the topic of power. This is a hot one. What is your advice and guidance to women aspiring to be leaders?
Thank you, Eric. So, if you look at Kenya, there is really a lot of positive development when it comes to onboarding women into positions of influence and power all together. So recently, for the last decade or so, there has really been a lot of advocacy on the girl-child empowerment, and the empowerment is coming in mainstreamed highly through the education. So when it comes now to access of education and their basic needs, that space is actually being filled up. And you'll appreciate when you look at the role, for example, of a women rep in each and every county, the 47 of them, they have a responsibility to drive and promote girl-child empowerment. From perspective of education, their requirements and needs minimally to provide them with a peaceful environment that will make them settle and pursue their education and life goals seamlessly. So, so that notwithstanding, as much as that platform has been provided for, it's good to appreciate all together that as much as these opportunities are there, they just they just don't come. You really have to go for it. You really have to go for it. So when you look at it from a perspective of the female wing mechanizing their way into position of influence to cause an impact, because at the end of the day, irrespective of how much power and influence you carry, the only way we'll get to note and live to tell that indeed ABCD person has really done quite well is by the impact that you bring on board. Looking at it now from the society perspective, the economic perspective, and even when it comes now to policies within the governance of a country. So there is need now for our sisters to get to appreciate that yes, those opportunities are here with us. They will not present themselves. We really have to go for them. And it's the 2022 election is a demonstration that women had to go for their own slots within now the national politics. When you look at the corporates, the people who really have had an impact, they have come from a journey. They are women who started off as secretaries, and they have risen all through to the top. And they are not actually occupying top positions of a local brand. These are international brands which have really continued to impact on people's lives through employment. They have also run a lot of initiatives through corporate social responsibility. And all together we can come in and see it that indeed if we look at a leader in company A who is a female, the impact that we have seen is that ever since they took over that particular role or position, the organization they work with have consistently been on a growth trajectory. So there will be a lot of expectations from your end. However, it's not everybody who will come in and fit into that corporate position. It's not everybody who will come and fit in that political position. We equally have our own spaces within now what drives our gross domestic product as an economy. And this is what we call now the informal occupations, which are emanating from agriculture, manufacturing, processing and value addition. So if you come in and figure out that you need to occupy your position within the informal sector, and you want to impact and bring about value, it's important also you get to appreciate that it is important and of value to plan. So many people, Eric, have good ideas. So many women have very good ideas. And I said when you look at it from MSMEs, you can see how much space they have occupied. And that again is reflected in our GDP, in that 1 out of 5 is a space which is actually occupied by MSMEs. But at the same time, we've seen quite a number of women come out here for business, but by the fact that they did not sit to appreciate that an idea could originate from anywhere, from you interacting with other people, you interacting with the environment, reading, etc., etc. But the moment you fail to sit and package that idea into a business plan and a strategic plan, then honestly you will come in and blindly pursue to fill a gap that has no direction or purpose, So it's important that that idea, let it be put into a perspective of a plan and a strategy to draw you a direction and a purpose. Map for you the products and services that you intend to bring on board. Those products and services, they should actually come in and address a problem. Every other product or services that Eric does not come in to address a problem statement in the form of a solution, then there is trouble. There's a problem in there, And when you map from your idea to a plan to a product and service, certainly the market will be there. And what the market is looking for is on how much solutions are you providing to our own problems. So my experience so far is that as much as we have a lot of opportunities even through now policy, looking at it now from a global perspective. One of the policies which have been introduced by this such like IFCs, International Finance Corporations, if they have to come in and partner with you and invest, then there is a condition that up to 1/3 of all your products or services, from a perspective of outsourcing or subcontracting, you really have to spare that for women. So policies are already coming in, and that's exactly what is apparently going on. And these policies have not only come from the global the global partners that we have as a country. When you look at our parastatals and even the government, there is a requirement that 1/3 of all opportunities should go to women. Of course, they came in and brought in youth and people with disabilities. But then when these opportunities now come along your way, my advice to you, kindly, with all humility, do not operate blindly. The fact that you seems to have hit your luck without necessarily toiling, and by the virtue of the fact that there is a lot of external forces demanding that you must be accommodated. So as you get accommodated through the external forces, please accommodate yourself also, looking at it from a perspective of structuring that business or enterprise, and running it in a manner that is befitting its own continuity and celebration of their first birthday. Yes.
On point. Let's do a future outlook.
Yes.
As well as also you give us the final comments. We have 3 minutes.
Okay. So the future outlook is that, yes, there is immense and massive opportunities that are coming up every day for our women. The balancing act is on whether you sustain that particular opportunity once it lands on you, the fact that it is not going to be there permanently. It does not mean that the fact that you went to school and you have acquired all the biggest and best papers in the world, that we do not again forget that our main contributor to the economy is through the informal sector, one of it being agriculture, you know. So and of course now my parting shot is we need also as women to balance. We need to appreciate we have families, we have work, we have the society, we have that balance has to be in there. Otherwise, if we don't again come in and strike a balance, there is going to be havoc, because you are likely to wreck one angle to the disadvantage of the other. So we need not to forget ourselves that as much as there is a lot of opportunities and we are being onboarded on the table to complement each other, how best can we create a balance in our work and life? Yes.
The Bishop calls ladies, our ladies, he calls them the voice of balance.
Yes, thank you.
A quick one. And this is, there has been concerns that the girl child had been so empowered that the boy child has now been neglected. What are your comments?
The reality is, it is true that the whole world seemed to have taken a position. And that position, in my honest observations, turned out to be not favorable to the boy child. So the space that the boy child had occupied really was dethroned for the girl child. But the reality is, you go back to creation. God created man as the head, Eric. We are not changing that. If you change it, that's God's design. If you want to change it, you be ready for consequences. So as we strike in to empower let us not also forget that the way of human thinking,
and they can do well, all of them.
both of them. It's not about now a competition. You know, we came in to convert that conversation into a competition.
Yeah, good.
Unhealthy competition.
Yeah.
A boy and a girl can collaborate.
Yeah. Actually, that's it now.
Yes.
That's the formula.
They can complement each other. So apparently, if you look at what is going on now, see, they are going through the initiation. For those who have sat for their KCP, and grade 6. But the initiation is happening to both, the boy and the girl, because they are being taught on how they can complement each other. They can collaborate as an ecosystem to bring about value that is meaningful to life and themselves, as opposed to competing. How many girls are we admitting to university? How many girls are we having in the corporate world? That is not really very healthy. It is not very healthy.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a powerful conversation this morning.
Thank you.
One thing is the kind of value that we have upon our women is up there.
Yes.
We value you, we esteem you, we love you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, so instrumental. We can't imagine a world without women.
No, it will be suicidal.
Chaotic.
It will not exist.
And to the conversation of the boy child, girl child, shift from competition to collaboration. That's where the real power is. We are not saying you empower one, you demote the other. Actually, no. It's bringing all at pass so that both strengths can be put to work. And that way we are going to see a very strong society.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that conversation. Tunashukuru sana.
Yes.
We thank God for creating us, male and female, and the way that He has given each and every one of us each powers across the genders.
Yes.
God is just amazing.
Very, 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 very.
Wow. I want also to thank the people producing the Uchao Dawn Break Show. We have Ian Getao, Sheila Huro, and Doreen Mwende. From that conversation, you can hear we have the two thirds in our production team. Prayer Cave TV, check.
Actually, it's 50-50.
Yes.
It's 50-50.
And to you, our viewer, we love you, we appreciate you, and we pray for you every day. That's why another check, Minister Andegwa, is going to be here in the studio praying for all your needs. Wow. And also on Sunday, we welcome you because our mom, Reverend Phyllis Mother, is going to be ministering. Another check. In the Sunday service. God bless you and see you on Monday.